Well, everybody watching knows it's cold in Australia right now, and as the temperatures go down, the number of Australian households struggling to pay their electricity bills goes up. In fact, the number of people struggling has increased by about 50% in the last 12 months. Energy supplier Origin have said they've now had 70,000 families just last month apply for hardship support because they can't pay their electricity bill on time. Their competitor, AGL, has had about 19,500 people in the same situation. So that's about 90,000 Australian households last month saying we can't pay our electricity bill, we need help. Well, Senior Government Minister Tanya Plibersek said, look, it's not that bad, it could be worse. We've actually kept prices down even as they skyrocket through the roof. That's literally what she said. Have a listen.
We certainly are seeing lower increases than we would if the government hadn't intervened in the market. And we've intervened to keep power prices lower. I mean, they're going through the roof around the world. A lot of that is related to the conflict in the Ukraine, of course. But our intervention is keeping power prices lower than they otherwise would be.
That's a brand new phrase. We don't have increases in power bills, we have lower increases in power bills, and somehow that is a success. Here's what Australians are being told. This is a headline from just a couple of weeks ago. Aussies urged to reduce use of heaters as cold weather sets in. So that's how you save money on your power bill. You just sit in your home and freeze to death. And all of this because of the government's relentless pursuit of net zero. Here is Energy Minister Chris Bowen explaining that to reach net zero, sometimes to make an omelette, you've got to crack a few eggs. Here he is.
Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
OK, that wasn't actually Chris Bowen, Caleb, but it was a pretty good representation of where things are at right now.
I fancy telling people, just turn your heater off, you don't need it.
Got a blanket.
It's just so out of touch to say, OK, well, one, your power bill's gone through the roof, but it could have been a lot worse, so clap to me, how good am I?
Yeah.
But don't turn your heater on. That'll solve the energy crisis and the bill crisis. And I know I sound like a broken record saying this, but we have seen nothing yet when it comes to the cost of living crisis, because there's still a significant swathe of people who are yet to come off their fixed interest rate loans, and that will continue to happen over the next few months. There are more and more people who will end up in this position. It's what, 90,000 now? You wait until what it is at the end of September. It will get worse and worse.
The optics of this are really bad. Like, you've got 90,000 Australians who can't pay their electricity bills.
And that's one company.
And I should have said, Tanya Plibersek speaking earlier, she was doing that off the back of last night, where all our politicians are whining and dining in the warmth of Parliament House.
Yeah.
And then she comes on television and says, well, you can't afford to pay your heating. But, I mean, it could have been worse.
I can't believe people aren't rioting in the streets, and I mean that genuinely. When you zoom out and remind yourself this is the most energy-rich country in the world, you name it, we got it, we export loads of it, it's the source of our nation's wealth, so we're not really cutting back on emissions at all, are we? And yet we are suffering now, and we will continue to suffer. We know that this is just the beginning. This is willfully and needlessly being foisted on Australians, not because we voted for it, not because most of us even believe in climate change. This is their green dream, and it is anti-human flourishing. We're seeing the sacrifices just beginning to be made now. We're literally just standing on the precipice now with these warnings of, just keep your heaters off this winter. It's just the start. It's only going to get worse. We've already seen this in other Western countries. We're going to be no different, but they are doing it to us.